Tanya for the 16th of Teves is in Perek Yud Beis on Daf Yud Zayin Amud Aleph. Number at the bottom of the page is 50. The Alter Rebbe is describing the Beinani, and he says that the evil in the Beinani consists of evil impulses, evil desires and attractions. He feels the pleasure that is present in the physical pleasures, but does not indulge in them either in thought, speech, or deed. How does he manage to do that? How does he say no to his appetites? So the Alter Rebbe says it is within the nature of man. This is how we are created, that the mind rules over the heart. In the sense that even after the heart has a desire, the mind has to decide whether or not he's going to pursue it. And that's what makes a human being human. And particularly when it has to make a choice between holy and unholy, the force of holiness over unholiness is like the effect that light has over darkness, in that it is displaced effortlessly because of its insignificance. Darkness is insubstantial, and therefore light displaces it effortlessly. Klipa is insubstantial, and therefore truth, the wisdom of the godly soul, displaces it effortlessly. We are about 2/3 of the way down. The line begins with the word mitzvahs. V'af al pikein, in spite of this, in spite of the fact that a Beinani rules over his heart, and therefore can control the desires of his heart, yet einei nikra tzadik klal, he is not called a tzaddik at all, mipnei sheyisrein hazeh asher le'nefesh olikis ala cheshach v'sichus shel haklipa, because this advantage that the godly soul has over the darkness and foolishness of the animal soul, which is therefore displaced effortlessly, this advantage exists only in the arena of the garments of the soul. In the essence of the soul, meaning to say the 10 powers of the soul, here the godly soul doesn't have that kind of effect on the animal soul. The wisdom of the godly soul effortlessly displaces the thought, speech, and deed of the foolishness of the animal soul. But when it comes to the desires of the animal soul, the appetites, the feelings, here the godly soul's wisdom doesn't have that kind of effortless effect in displacing the feelings of the animal soul. And that is why he's not a tzaddik. Because the 10 powers of the animal soul, the intellect and the emotions of the animal soul that comes from klipa, that rests in the left side of the heart, has not been displaced at all in the Beinani. After the davening, when he is no longer focused on the greatness of God, during the davening he feels as if it has been displaced, because for the duration of the davening he feels no attraction whatsoever to anything physical. He loses himself in the davening. But after the davening, when his love for God is not flaming in the right side of the heart, in the revealed part of the heart, it's not an actual emotion. Rather, the love has withdrawn, has receded to the back of the heart, to the hidden part of the heart, and it is now a heart that is full inwardly with a love for God, but it doesn't express itself outwardly. And that is the natural love that exists in every godly soul, as we'll explain later. So the actual love, the activated love, is no longer there. What is left is the potential love, or the hidden love, that is in the recesses of the heart, Then the foolishness of the fool, which is the evil, can be revealed in the left side of the heart, to desire once again all the pleasures of this world, both the permissible as well as the prohibited. The Beinani can feel the pleasure inherent in those things, as if he hasn't davened at all. However, when we say that a Beinani can see the pleasure or feel the pleasure in those things that are prohibited, we don't mean that he is attracted to sin. When it comes to that which is prohibited, it does not occur to him to actually do the sin, God forbid. He is not considering doing the sin because doing the sin does not appeal to him at all. Rather, it is the thought of sin, not the thought to sin, which in a sense are worse than the sin themselves. They are capable, these thoughts are capable of rising from the heart, because they originate in the left side of the heart, in the animal soul, and they rise to the mind, and the effect that they can have is to confuse and distract the person from his davening and from his study. But to actually suggest sin in the Beinani, that's unthinkable. The Beinani is not disposed towards sinning. And therefore, even the thought to sin will not occur to a Beinani. So when we say that a Beinani sees the pleasure in sinful acts, he sees the pleasure in the act. He has no desire to commit the act. In other words, the difference between the tzaddik and the Beinani is that the tzaddik sees no pleasure in the act, and not only wouldn't do it, but doesn't even see why anybody else would do it. Whereas the Beinani, he can see what the pleasure is. Of course, it's not for him, because in his life and in his world, God's will comes first. So there will never be a thought of sinning, but he can see what the commotion is all about. He can see why people might sin, because he sees the pleasure that is inherent, or the potential pleasure, in the act, even though the act might be a sin. Later on, the Alter Rebbe will say that when it comes to permissible things, here there are times when even the Beinani might succumb and actually indulge in the permissible pleasure. Although generally he resists it, because it is a dead end. It's pleasure for the sake of pleasure and not in the service of God. But there are times when the Beinani is not at his best, not in his element, where he will succumb to physical pleasures, but only of the permissible. And that the Alter Rebbe described earlier as Shedim Yehudayin, Jewish demons. And as the sages say, that there are three things, three sins, which a person cannot protect himself from. There are three sins which a person is not safe, can't keep himself away from on a daily basis. One of them is Hidur Aveda, the thought of sin, or Iyun Tefillah, or the concentration in davening. These things a person can't control, even a Beinani. And this thought of sin is not the thought to sin, but the thought of the pleasure in the sin. So the Beinani is on the one hand a tzaddik as far as his behavior is concerned, and on the other hand he is a rasha as far as his impulses are concerned. Only the rasha actually does what his impulses demand. The Beinani does not. The tzaddik not only doesn't do what he's not supposed to, but sees no attraction to it, whereas the Beinani does. In the Hayom Yom for the 16th of Teves, the Rebbe writes that the Tzemach Tzedek once told Rebbe Hendel, the famous Chassid Rebbe Hendel, during a Yechidus. He told him that the study of Zohar elevates the soul. The study of Medrash arouses the heart. And the saying of Tehillim with tears washes out the vessel.